Well, welcome back. We're on day 8 and we're in the middle of talking about prayer. And prayer for many of us is what can be described as or experienced as a very awkward activity. I mean, what do you say to the living God? But you and I were created so that prayer, our conversation with God, would be the most natural activity for a human being to do, to engage in. The problem with prayer, the issue that we have with prayer, why it's so difficult, is our sin, our propensity to resist God, to turn from Him, to live our life without Him, to rebel against Him. This is something that was happening within our souls. It is warring against Him and against prayer. There is an insurmountable barrier between us and God because of our sin, but that's the very reason why God sent His one and only Son into the world. God, in fact, took on flesh and dwelled among us in order to remove this barrier that stands between us and Him. He came as close as He could to us in order to bring us close to Him. Our sin blinds us from His goodness. Our sin shuts down communication, but through Jesus Christ and what He has done, He is opening up that communication again. Ephesians chapter 2, it says that His sin-bearing death on the cross destroyed the barrier between us and God. In Hebrews chapter 10, it says that the blood that was shed by Jesus on the cross actually opened up a way for us to enter into the most holy place, the holy presence of the living God. We have been given full access through Jesus. For all who put their trust in Jesus, we're given full access to the Father to enjoy His presence. That's what we were made for. That's what we were created for. And that's what Jesus came to redeem us for, to draw us close. And I think that this is so well worth pondering. The lengths that God has gone to in order to bring us close to Him, that we could be with Him and that we could enjoy His presence before we say anything or even hear anything, just to be with Him. I remember years ago I went on a prayer retreat and I brought with me a whole long list of things I needed answers for, and I was preparing to list them off before God and to hear what He would have to say to me. And this is what He said to me. He said, "John, I can tell you everything you need to know in 5 minutes. Just be with me." That was a game changer for me. I spent the large majority of my day just enjoying His presence, and in the last moments of this prayer retreat, this long list of prayer requests that I had, they were all answered. God wants us, first and foremost, when it comes to prayer, just to enjoy His presence. Brother Lawrence, 17th century monk, wrote a little book called Practicing the Presence of God, one that I would recommend that every Christian read. Very simple book. But he defined practicing the presence of God this way. He said to take delight in and be accustomed to His divine company, God's divine company, speaking humbly, talking lovingly with Him at all times, at every moment, without rule or system. In other words, getting into the habit of enjoying God's presence, keeping company with God. This is why quiet time, this time that we establish, set aside to be alone with God, is so incredibly important. And so I want us to begin to apply this right now. And that is our set quiet time, and we can practice this right after this video, or even right in this moment, but to be aware of the presence of God. Francis de Sales, another 17th century monk, writer, priest, spoke about when we do take that time alone with God, the first thing that we should do is, in his language, he says, put yourself in the presence of God. God is always present, but we're not always aware of it. And we need to become conscious of that. So the very first thing we do, put ourselves in the presence of God and just be with Him before the conversation begins. I leave that with you. Make that a habit. May God bless us as we do so.